Welcome everybody to the meeting. We're starting to record now. Tyler, you want to repeat your question, and maybe I'll give a little bit of context as well.
Sure, sure. I was just asking how everything was going with the bounty program payment sort of snafu that happened with some people getting less, some people getting more, just seeing how that was going.
So let me just back up for a second and give some background, because I'm not sure that everybody's familiar with this situation. I've been attempting to upgrade our computer systems, our support systems, and for August payments, which were voted on up till September 9th, after the voting, there was a new e-sign system. And what happened was that we provided finance with a slightly different format of our records. And there was a mistake that was made that should have been visible to at least 3 people, including me, but none of us caught it. It involved a sort that didn't include all of the columns, and that resulted in a scrambling of payments. So I spent the last 5 days or so trying to, well, first we figured it out, and then we've been trying to recover, or we sent an email asking people to return the transfers that were not due to them. So far, we've got complete compliance by 19 for a total of almost 80%. And we have agreement for almost all of the rest. 11% we have not been able to contact the people on yet. And there's an interesting case where one contributor received excess payment and has refused to return it. And I had a conversation with him, and it's my feeling that I've done an appropriate amount. And
what's his excuse?
He blamed what he said. Well, I'm not going to get into it too deeply, because I think this is a serious matter, and I don't want to comment beyond what is appropriate for me to comment. Basically, he said that, look, this was the co-op's mistake, and he was confused, and so he shouldn't be responsible. And because of the kind of forensics that we have with blockchain, I have some reason to disbelieve that on its face value. I also discussed what he might be confused about, and said that to me it would be reasonable, for instance, for him to take the price at the time that he made his transfer, and use that as a metric, and at least return the excess over that. So we have a situation where the total amount involved doesn't rise to a level of being material to the cooperative, but there's an important principle involved here. And one of the agenda items that I have for today, sorry, say again? Ned, did you say something?
No, that wasn't me.
Okay, so one of the agenda items that I put on for today is this a governance matter? Is this something that, for instance, um, might be discussed within Colab?
I mean, I'll put my 2 cents in. I certainly think it's something that should be discussed. To me, it seems like, as all members of the co-op, if these kind of events persist, it's sort of like we're all worse off than, like an individual gaining is not good for everybody. So I think it should be something that's discussed.
So I've got agreement from 24 out of 25 people that were from 24 out of the 25 people that were involved, which frankly surprised me. I mean, of course, I did my best, and I worked very hard to contact everybody and double contact and so forth and so on. But still, I was surprised at the degree of, 24 out of 25 people either finishing or agreeing, or two of them we haven't been able to contact yet. And only one explicitly refused to cooperate. So on the whole, I think that's very good. But on the other hand, I do think I agree with Tyler. This is kind of a challenge to what sort of governance we have. So I saw a suggestion that maybe this person should lose their co-op membership. I think that would be certainly appropriate. I don't know. Again, I don't want to
know
be
what the bylaws of the co-op membership is, so it's hard for me to comment on that, but I would think at the very least that person should not get any more work, bounty system or otherwise. Right? I mean, that's just not good. I don't know the person's excuses, but it doesn't seem in good faith in somebody we'd want to farm out work for pay.
Yes, I think that we would all agree with that, and I'm not sure. So somebody suggested that we publish the name of the person, and I don't think that I'm ready or authorized or whatever to do that.
You got to be careful with that, just like kicking the person out of the co-op. Like theoretically, we don't even know the male, female, so the person.
Yes.
But that's fine. Maybe that is a private governance or some other discussion.
We could, I know marketing has started using Lumio voting. We could rank order the alternatives as membership and simply, I don't know how we selectively send an invite to Lumio only to members.
I think that's a technological problem that we can handle. Are you talking about to all members, or are you talking to contributors within the bounty system?
I think we want a decentralized decision making, and I think we can argue that it should only be sent to the members of the bounty system or the members of the GitHub repository, which should.
We do have that information. We do have that.
Right.
So we could arrange
to be members. Right. So we could notify them. We can share an invite to the Lumio poll. I think it should be a rank ordering poll. I think we should brainstorm as many different alternatives as we can come up with, and rank order. And we could allow people to rank order 2 out of 3 if we just have 3. You know, how do we get a collective intelligence out of it is the question. And the rank vote is going to give us more than a binary vote.
So do people have some comments on Jim's suggestion to begin with a poll? Jim, I think, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I like that. I like that approach. My one recommendation was going to be we should probably check the bylaws to see if the removing from the co-op is even an option that we can vote on first. But that aside, I like this approach.
Yeah. Well, we don't have authority to carry out. We can only bring to the board really what our sentiment is.
Yes.
The only thing is, Alan, you've already tried to negotiate with this chap. He sounds like he's not going to budge. How active is he currently in the co-op? You don't have to mention names.
I have to say that this is the person that on whose behalf I've worked before, and I was a little bit surprised, and I'm not very happy about it. And
yeah, then I think those options would apply, because then the person's going to feel some sort of pinch, and perhaps, yeah, I definitely like Ned's approach to it, but yeah, I think the voting thing is the way to go, like Tyler said as well.
Okay, we have remove from co-op, deny future work, do nothing, exposed member. What other, are there any other suggested outcomes or actions?
So I guess this should be multiple choice.
I really think the ranked voting would be the best. Which is multiple choice, yes.
So Jim, let me ask you a procedure, not a procedure, but given that this is only opinion seeking, is this something that I know Colab has an awful lot of labels, sub-labels, channels within it. Is this something that Colab would spearhead? Would it be something within the bounty system as an issue? Would it be something in some other form? What's the form that this would take?
Good question. I think that it could probably fit into the provenance of the delegation group, which is currently working on decision making. And
so is that something that you would sponsor in the delegation channel of Colab?
I'll propose that. I'm not a leader there.
Okay. Does everybody think that's a good way of turning this into an action item?
I think either way, it's going to turn into an issue on GitHub.
I think, yeah, so like Jim's saying, my experience personally, even though I'm a contributor, I don't normally look out to follow all of those channels. I'm normally, most of the time, I'm on GitHub looking at the various issues and what people are saying. So personally, I think it would be great to have an issue anyways, so that we can draw as many people to it as possible to make it as fair as possible.
Right. So, and people can come to the channel in the Colab to, or comment on GitHub. Right. So, some people don't use GitHub. So we can invite people from Discord into the Colab or to the issue.
Okay, Jim, I'm giving you the action item.
So we can't do a poll on Discord?
We can.
We could.
We can do a poll on Discord. In fact, there's a
So
poll.
I'm going to add that as an option to consider.
Yeah.
Before we do any of this, should we have somebody other than me contact the person?
I think so. I'm kind of ruminating, Alan, on your comment that you've actually worked with this person before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe they were having a bad day, or maybe the person was having a bad day. I mean, who knows? So, you know, if we want to kind of rectify the situation in the most friendly, amenable process, you know, maybe somebody who else has a relationship with that person can reach out and.
Well, maybe it should be somebody that doesn't have a relationship with them. I mean, if we don't know who it is, we don't know.
But that's kind of confrontational. I mean, Alan could judge that. I trust Alan that he would be able to pick somebody who this person has worked with.
Yeah, I think a third party would be ideal. I mean,
so can I again take myself out of that loop and maybe Jim assign that? Jim arrange some further contact with him?
Yeah, I mean, I know if I was in that position and somebody I didn't even know contacted me, I might have my my hackles up.
Yeah, look.
I guess he's suggesting me because I know I have worked with the person.
Well, I'm not necessarily suggesting that you be the person, but you know, somebody like Evan, who's about to speak. You know, he's pretty good at speaking with people. Maybe there's somebody that
he knows the person. That's the question. We want to assign somebody to somebody who knows.
I think that they know each other well enough. I mean, it's a person that's been active and.
I think at the end of the day, like Ned was saying, and Jim, you seem to kind of nod your head in this as well. It would be good to afford the guy another sort of mediation chance. Like Ned said, perhaps the guy's just pissed off or something's, you know, got his back up on the wall. And if anything, we had to kind of try to help each other out. So I think that alone would be a heartfelt thing that surely the guy would go, oh, okay, let me just rethink about what I'm doing here. If still after that the person doesn't budge, then we're going to have to, regardless of a known person or non-known person, we're going to have to proceed. So let's just hope that whatever it is, we're able to bend his mind, so to speak, or just convince him to kind of play ball here, you know? So guys, I'm up for it. If anyone wants to nominate me or whatever the case is, if I don't know this oak, it doesn't matter. I'm keen to chat to whoever it is, whether they're known or not known. And I'm happy to just approach it gently and see what we can do there. If you guys
is that a decision that we can just make right now?
Well, I think we have to first ask if anybody has a concern about that or objection.
I think that's a very nice decision.
Do we just do thumbs up?
I mean, I'm good for that. I'll give a thumbs up to it.
Thumbs up. Thank you, Evan. It's
no problem. Okay, cool. Alan, maybe just give me a little bit of a...
Okay, and for everybody's information, Dora asked the question of, you know, what size we're talking about, and I think it would be reasonable to say that it's between $1,000 and $2,000. So it's not something that would be material to the co-op's future in terms of financial effect, but I think in terms of cooperation, it's extremely important.
Yeah, I hear that number and cringe a little bit because that seems fairly significant to not to not try to handle it with this approach. So
okay, so do we have agreement on what we need to agree? I think Evan's going to contact him, and then Jim will take it from there if that's not successful. Going once, going twice? Okay. Are there people that want to speak about the return of rock that was made by, so for those who aren't familiar, one of our contributors, Donald, sent rock to the co-op contract. So there's a record of that, but there's no mechanism for rectifying that.
What do you mean, the rock contract?
So there's a smart contract which has an address, and somebody sent an amount of rock to that address.
So was that part of the returns or just randomly sent it?
No, so this is a totally different issue.
Okay.
Totally different subject.
So
We're on to item 2.
This was back in May or whatever when he did this.
Yes.
And it got postponed until it came time for the redemption to decide whether we were going to return it, the Genesis block, return it as a bounty, or not return it at all. So this is brought up for consideration.
This was just from his own personal wallet. He had been accumulating rock, and by mistake, he sent it back to the co-op's address.
Correct. And since since no one has a private key for a contract address, there's no way.
Okay, so this is that discussion that was going on Discord. Okay. Nobody has the private key?
There is no private key for a contract address. I mean, well, there is one, but it's never stored anywhere. You can't determine what it is. Nobody can determine what it is.
So how does any funds ever come out of that address? It doesn't.
It's a contract. It's a smart contract. It's not something that funds would ever come out of.
Well, actually, if it had methods that sent ETH from the contract address, it could do it.
But it doesn't.
But it doesn't, right.
Okay. So again, is this a trivial amount, or is this like a significant, like somebody's entire fortune?
I think it was like $4,000, so it's probably less now.
It might be a lot less now.
I mean, I feel really bad for the person. On the other hand, we all know this is like the wild, wild west. And like every time I do anything on personally that I'm sending some kind of coin somewhere, someplace, I quadruple check. Mistakes happen. The question is, who would make him whole?
Well,
let me just finish one more point, Jim, because one thing that I saw with all the conversations, like, yeah, we want to be, nice and humane and the whole thing, and I agree. I then think, like, what happens with the second person who makes the same mistake? And then so maybe the second person, we say, okay, we'll do this, we'll make them whole. And now the third person, and then maybe the third person we find is just gaming the system, and then what do you do about the fourth person? So I'm concerned about if we do decide to make them whole, the scalability and sustainability of whatever we decide.
So I just want to add something to that. It's technically, I've seen some proposals to burn the treasury, some part of the treasury, and this method is basically the same. It's like you're gonna decide a burn for the treasury, and that's why it's problematic.
Well, the co-op voted to do a burn last year, so why is it a problem to doing a burn?
Well, that's true. I know Jacob Bassiri is really passionate about that.
I really think it's hypocritical for us to demand that a member pay back when the co-op makes a mistake, and the co-op.
It's not the same, right? So he didn't send it to an account that the co-op can control, from what I understand.
Not only that, but the co-op has an agreement that it's supposed to send a certain amount, and if the co-op sends a different amount to a person, legally, besides morally, legally, there's a responsibility for the person to return that.
Right. I'm just understanding the person's point of view that if this is the wild, wild west, and if you make an error, it's that's your responsibility.
Jim, let me address that. I feel actually a little bit more strongly. Again, this particular person that made the mistake, I feel very bad because I work with him a lot. But there are institutions that people set up. There are rules that people set up, and the cost of changing rules is just.
Oh, if we pay him in the Genesis block, that Genesis is going to happen once. Nobody else can be compensated in that way.
I think it's a terrible precedent to pay him in.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, we're a community. I would suggest, posting something on Discord, creating a wallet address, and if anybody wants to donate, almost like a Kickstarter fund, right? And then that way, folks who feel bad and want to contribute, it's a way that we can kind of help this person out, but without the co-op having to refund the money.
Hey,
then
Alan,
the question is, do we do the same thing for the second person who has the same mistake?
Well, I think we care about our members, and if somebody made a mistake in good faith and they're greatly hurt by it and they chew in and we wrote a budget for it. Many people think it's wrong with a zero budget. The person made some restitution, but I think we have a responsibility to that we own our treasury, and if we want to do through a collective process, decide to use some of it to make whole somebody who has been hurt, that for any reason, we should be able to use that treasury for that purpose.
So why don't we put some of the onus back on the person and say, okay, go to a Fund Me Now or a Kickstarter, create a fund, make it very visible, and then what we will do as the co-op is we will announce that and help support that through announcements, so the person can be made whole, but they have to bear some of the responsibility of being made whole.
Hey, Alan, real quick, I don't want to digress. Just for context, what was the reason that he sent the money in the first place? Like, I don't actually know the context.
I think everybody's made mistakes in this. Yeah, I think that everybody who's dealt with crypto has done some stupid thing at one time or another.
Right, and it's probable that he had the contract address copied in his copy buffer, and then when he went to copy the correct address, it went wrong. It could be that simple.
I just don't think it's the co-op's responsibility to make him whole, fiscally.
Well, I don't. The question is, does it cost us anything to do it? And if it doesn't,
I think that it does cost us anything to do it. And I agree with Ned. Like, if we make this person whole, what about some other person who makes a mistake, or another person who had a car accident?
That's up to the membership. That's they're either.
I think that the membership in this case has some kind of fiduciary responsibility to the community and to future rock holders and so on.
Right, they can vote their own conscience, right?
Yes.
That's what my view is. They should be able to vote their own conscience, and the reward system is based on sponsorship. So if no one will sponsor it, then there won't be any funding.
Okay, is there anything more to add on this particular issue? And is there an action item that we want to... Juanita! Hi! Juanita, I'm looking for you. I need to talk to you. could you contact me in DM? ALLANC. Okay, on this particular, Juanita, I'd appreciate it if you could contact me. Thanks. On this particular agenda item, are we done? And is there an action item that we need to follow up on? If not, I would like to get to the last item. What about sponsorship? What's the current state of sponsorship? Did you have some message about that?
I don't know if anyone knows more than me. My understanding is that it's a work in progress still, and we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. So last night I was at that. I don't know if anyone here was at the office hours with marketing, led by Patrick. It was one of the things we discussed, and like Jim said, it is kind of still up in the air. However, it seems that according to him, it's high up on his agenda to kind of address and put the word out there. Obviously, some of the concerns I raise is that we're all kind of wanting to contribute, but we don't want to step on any toes and get shut down and get a whole lot of resistance and all that kind of negativity. So we're trying to do things the right way by approaching the right departments, and we're trying to find out what new process is involved before jumping the gun, so to speak. And he's all for it. He's stoked that, you know, we raised these things. He sounded very positive. So I think at this current time, none of us really knows, to be honest, besides the fact that they're on top of it, so to say, and they're kind of drafting some sort of plan or something that he's going to be putting out there in the next, I don't know when, a couple of weeks maybe. I do think, though, it should be something we should be pushing as much as possible so that we can get some sort of clarity on it, and we don't all just sit around doing nothing. There does need to be some sort of agenda or plan put in place whereby the issues and whatever the case is, the feedback down from the departments are, you know, given to us. That's as much as I can share right now, based on what I heard last night and chatted to Patrick about.
So maybe.
Oh no, Dan, Ned, you were there.
yeah, and so maybe related, maybe somewhat tangential, but so you know, the board met yesterday. So I think everybody knows, and I don't know if Greg is going to talk about it, but you know, there is definitely scarcity of funds, and so even my solutions group itself has not been funded yet. That's why it's only me at this point, and I had a robust proposal in front of the board. I know Jonathan, if I could speak for him, had a proposal for Asia in front of the board, and they did not get to vote on any of those proposals. I heard from Kenny that no proposals were discussed or voted on because they were basically just discussing budgets and finances, other financial stuff. So they have a meeting scheduled for next Monday, where hopefully they're going to start taking up some of these proposals. So I don't know where marketing fell into that, if they were also delayed for a week, or, you know, I just think I'm hoping to hear more from Greg at the community debrief next. I just think there's tough financial times right now. So I think that could be why some of these delays in sponsorship or, you know, other funding efforts.
So,
Alan, you're sideways.
The current state of things is that the only person whose budget vote bounty system has counted that I've seen is Dan's. He still has a master voting power. The rest
No,
of
that's not the case. There are several new voters.
Okay.
And there's an explanation that Dan posted of how these new voters were selected. I think that he's starting with development as a core, and that led to China. So Jonathanks is now a certified member and a certified voter, and they're gradually trying to build that out.
So they have two now?
Yes.
Specifically for the bounty system?
Yes, they have.
Okay.
You know, they in the trust metric, they have master ratings, and the rest of us can vote, but our votes don't count. So as it stands right now, for things to get bounties for September, there has to be a third person that has a rating. But it doesn't matter whether it's apprentice or journey.
It's a quorum kind of thing.
Or thing. You need 3 votes that have some power in order to get through. So my understanding is that as these sponsors come on board, either they or someone who represents them will be given a certification in the bounty system to pay bounties. But right now, with only 2 certified members, nothing can be funded.
Sorry, I thought there's 9.
I think Dror is correct. There's currently 9, and people are being added, and the 9 have the power to add others as well.
Okay. Do we have a list of them somewhere?
Yes, Dan, George, do you know which issue Dan posted this in? I'm guessing.
I don't remember. I can find it.
It might be 783.
That would make sense. So I'll look there first.
There's a question I think that Cove Margot asked and Dan addressed with a pretty detailed explanation.
Thank you.
Okay, is there more insight from anybody else here? Is there an action item that we take away from this? Okay. I guess that I have a question that could go here, which is, we've talked about the need for sponsorship and the need for the bounty system not insulating itself and becoming, going off in a different direction than the rest of the co-op. My question is whether there's been some talk about budgets and where funding for projects come from. And it's my feeling that bounty system should have its own budget, and that budget should be used in support of projects that are desired. There's other opinions, and I don't think this is resolved yet, that budgets should actually come out of departments where the work is being asked for. Does anybody have anything to say about that?
A little bit. I thought the new system was more where departments that wanted work, I thought the whole refactoring of the bounty system was going to address your later point.
That was a little bit cryptic. Can you just say?
I thought the whole point of the reboot of the bounty system was that departments who wanted to sponsor work were going to fund that out of their budgets.
So I don't think that that's Dan's understanding. It's not my understanding, but it is a common understanding of some of the people that have been involved or watching or participating in this reboot. So you've stated, one alternative. I've stated a different one. What do people feel here is, I don't think there's any decision that's been made in any official sense. What do people feel about this issue?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to talk as someone from the experience of bringing through, what I do with regards to video production and marketing, that kind of thing. Initially, I would create an issue, or like recently, I made a mistake where I just got ahead with the work because I like to just do things and get things done. But it wasn't without talking to someone first that I would hold in high regard, so to speak, and kind of get some sort of an okay, let's do it kind of thing. Anyways, long story short, resistance has just been met the whole time on any issue that I'd created, which I could see, okay, this isn't working out. I need to now get hold of marketing directly, which I then did on my latest issue. And I had Patrick and Alberto say, yes, this is great. Go ahead and do it. So to me, that was a green light. Let's do this thing. So I did the thing. And truth, Bob, you got all the guys saying, no, wow, this way, that way, just negativity all over again. So Alan, in the month of September, I had two different approaches. The one was just using the bounty system. And then this reboot discussion thing came up. And I thought, well, let me try now apply it in a different sense and get the approval of marketing, which to me is more than I could have done. And yet that in some people's minds was still not good enough. So, sorry guys, my camera's off. There we go. And so it kind of was like, where do we actually go? So in my mind is like, what I'm trying to say is, does it actually matter? I don't even think we've got a choice in it. We kind of just have to hope that the little that I can see now is just hope that whatever marketing or department, whether it's marketing or development or whatever the case is, we just got to, I think, kind of hope that any ideas we put forward are agreed upon, because it seems like now it's not so much us as a co-op, it's more coming approvals. We need to get approvals first from the head down. So currently I'm not really keen to do anything else at this particular time until I know for certain, once this new system's in place, that marketing have in fact endorsed me, so to speak, on something, so that people that want to moan and bitch, they got no room or leg to stand on, so to speak. And that's just where I'm at this current moment in time. I don't know if anyone else wants to maybe say anything.
I guess I would say that, it's been determined that we have to limit spending, and of course we have to limit spending. On the one hand, if there's a valuable thing to do, we want to spend the money to do it. We don't want to limit how much we can do. So what we're having here is not an abandonment of decentralized funding, all top down, but a pendulum swing toward all top down. And a commitment still, though, to decentralize the system as much as possible at the highest levels in the co-op. Not everyone agrees with that decentralization, but it's an evolutionary process, which means we don't know what's coming next. And,
yeah.
Sorry, I'm still not sure what's not clear. Like I'm really find this hard to listen to, that people keep saying
So Dror,
the new system is not clear.
I think that black and white. The question is whether bounty projects should be funded outside of a bounty system, or whether the bounty system should have its own funding and coordinate with sponsors.
Yeah.
Right. So when you say the bounty system will fund itself, you actually are asking for the funds to come from top, from up from the top, right? You're asking the co-op to give you money. So
Gerard, just let me say, I think that it should come from the membership, but yes, it's from the cooperative, from some consensus within the cooperative.
So if we look at the Gitcoin, you see they have a corporate co-op structure, and that means multiple people can fund and multiple people can receive the funds. And this is what co-op means. And
so where does the money come from?
Sorry?
Where does
anyone,
their money come from?
Anyone, right? So, I mean, you open an issue, people can add the funds, like I can as a member, if I see something that I want to endorse. And I've seen stuff. And if no one else in the co-op finds it useful and wants to sponsor it, I'll happily add some funds, and I hope other members will do the same.
Okay, but they're not expecting it to come from Gitcoin, co-op, treasury.
No. So Gitcoin is kind of, it's a decentralized way to do bounty system, right? Josh is exploring it because it's also going to give some exposure to other people and not only the members.
So Gitcoin is something similar to Kickstarter or Monster.com. It's a place where people can post requirements, and there can be volunteers or people bidding on that issue.
It's basically a decentralized bounty system.
Yeah.
And it's on the Ethereum chain. It supports ERC20 tokens. This is actually what we discussed that we should build and get the bounty system working that way. But it's already out there.
So I think that's a great alternative for those who want to participate in that. I think that is better than a bounty system that's still funded by the co-op treasury, the co-op treasury. So I think that's great.
So just to reiterate, the idea of sponsorship is basically marketing has a budget, and if they find something useful that the community is creating, they should use it. It's not like anyone will suggest some marketing that no one in the co-op wants to use, and then the money he should receive money just because he created that thing. So imagine if I go to a grocery store and then just tell people to buy stuff, but they don't want it. There's budgets. Everyone has budget in the co-op, and if we're creating bounties with the marketing-oriented bounty, then the marketing has such a huge budget. So if they want to use it, they will probably sponsor it. Or if they don't, and also they need to verify the quality, right? So the only place it worked well was like the core dev bounties, where Meta publishes the bounties. People can suggest in Jira, and people get paid by story points, and she verifies that whatever is delivered is in good quality, and they get paid based on that. But I didn't see it anywhere else. So hopefully that would change.
I see that there's an issue there for RChain as it stands right now called make the technical roadmap look presentable. On Gitcoin, there's an issue with ROC offered as payment.
Yeah, I think it's maybe Joshi exploring this whole
cool
coin thing.
Okay.
So I think that's really great. I will say a couple things. Once the solution group is funded, if I have work to do, I could see sponsoring some bounty programs. At the same time, I'm really more apt to contract with folks like Evan. If I had videos that I needed to be produced and I know your quality, I would also want to approach you on an SOW work specifically for the work to be done. You know, my personal feeling is like, as a previous developer, I would never want to work on a bounty system and take a chance at the end. I mean, to me, I would, all the work I've done as a consultant personally, for me, the way that feels right to me, you know, is, you know, my reputation, and now you're going to hire me to do X work, right? So that's how I would prefer to work. So that's kind of what I'm geared to. And the other thing I want to throw out there, because I haven't really heard this mentioned very much, is that if we're going to create a vibrant ecosystem, you know, we need companies being spun up that are working on the RChain platform, but their economic model is strong, so they're not actually looking to get funded by RChain. You know, they're creating some kind of product or service that's valuable to the world. And so, you know, like if I was going to write like a CryptEffects kind of IDE, I mean, to me, it's like I would get a couple devs together and I would spin up a company, right? And then, you know, and create an economic model, you know, that other developers, like, you know, 1 million Rolang developers around the world would find valuable and spend, you know, $50 a year on a license. I mean, that's kind of what I would look at. And I think that's what's going to ultimately create a really strong ecosystem. You know, just from what I've seen over the years of like all these kind of tools and, you know, things that we need. So I think having a combination of 3 different avenues is really great and will make us strong. But you know, I haven't really seen anybody spinning up companies on the RChain platform yet. And to me, that's a little concerning.
Ned, can you say again what the 3 avenues?
So the first is like this Gitcoin totally decentralized bounty system where folks who are really into this can fund projects that they all agree are valuable. So that's great. So that would be 1, totally decentralized. And then 2 would be kind of, I think, where the bounty system sounds like it's heading, where there's sponsorship from a business line. For instance, marketing has a budget. Actually, in my budget proposal, I have a hefty sum earmarked for a bounty program. So I don't want people to think I'm against the bounty program, because I see its value. And so I would use my funding on that budget line item to fund bounty projects that came up. So, and then the third would be a totally entrepreneurial approach to building on top of RChain, which is startup companies, you know, not looking for funding from RChain, but feeling they have such a great idea that their product or service is going to be sustainable in the long term without funding from RChain, but they're going to build on top of the RChain platform. I mean, every major computer platform I've seen over the last 35 years has always had a very strong and robust startup entrepreneurial ecosystem, and it just goes to contribute, you know, to the basic platform.
Okay, just want to say that your point 1 and 2 are pretty much the same, right? So if you have a decentralized system, one of the sponsorships in the co-op, one of the business actors becomes just one of the actors in the decentralized system. So anyone can, that's the idea, right? So
it's a little nuanced though, because it's not going out to the general population. It's actually coming inside of the co-op into a business line item. So, I mean, it's very similar, but I think there's a nuance there that's important.
Right. I just hope so the process should be the same. That's in my opinion, that's the idea of decentralization, right? So everyone is equal.
Well, no, because if you're coming to my line of business and I'm the manager of that line of business, it's up to me.
No, but in the system, in the bounty system, right? So anyone can be equal in that system. the fact that you got your funds because you have a budget or something shouldn't matter to the system. That's how I see it.
No, it would though, because because now you have to make your pitch to me. You're not making and I'm in control of this purse of money, right?
Okay.
Right, but
So Dror and Ned, I think you guys are saying pretty much the same thing. Dror is saying that Gitcoin is just open to anybody. Ned, I think you believe that the bounty system also should be open to anybody. That there are different, should there be funds that are earmarked specifically for cooperative members?
So in my budget, I'm not earmarking any of that money just as an open for anybody. I'm the gatekeeper.
Okay, so I guess you and Dror pretty much agree. Let's get to a summary. So Ned, Dror, anybody else with comments on this? Let's summarize, and then we need to be done for today.
Yeah, I have a comment on it. I have a comment here.
We've got the community meeting now.
Okay, everybody's going to leave for the community meeting, and who's got the last comment that you want to say?
Yeah, I'll just curious with the new system. How is invoicing going to work? Because currently, after the voting, I think we send the address and the co-op pays some rocks to our wallet. But with the new system that anybody can sponsor, how would the invoicing work? And what if somebody have different sponsors on different issues?
So let's postpone that and go to the debrief. I think that hasn't been decided yet. We're evolving, and we will decide all that in the coming weeks. Bye
Thanks,
all.
Jim. Good summary.